Well, I guess new year, same no gimmicky intro. Let's hear it. Tell the people who you are and what you do.
Who I am. My name is Lee Terbosic. I am a magician, entertainer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, born and raised.
Right on. Well, ever since we touched base and you agreed to come on, in my mind, you were the perfect person to kick off All Systems Good in 2021. You being no stranger to like repeatedly showing people things that they can hardly believe. That seems pretty fitting for a year. I'm betting people, I don't know, I think I'm betting that people don't think that this year is going to have as many surprises as it's going to have. And I think we're seeing that already. So, um, except when you're the one doing the surprising, people love it. So thanks for being here. And I guess let's like kind of dig into it.
Sure, dude. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Well, that, like I said, it's your time, and I'm really appreciative of you lending it. So I know that you're more than positive. Like I am more than positive you're ready to put 2020 in the rear view. But I feel like I'd be derelict of duty if I didn't ask you how you navigated through this last year. Like you being an entertainer who thrives off of crowds, like that palpable energy and like their collective reactions with the world upside down.
Yeah.
What have your last 10 months been like? How did you maneuver through everything between last March and now?
Yeah, it was an interesting run for sure. The 2020 year. I think I did what I would have normally done. Growing up as a magician, man, I was an entrepreneur, so I understood the hustle that it takes, and the strategery that goes into being an entertainer, and so all I did was as I saw the writing on the wall and was projecting my year of performing, not performing. What am I going to do with all this time that's changing for me that I'm not used to? So I tried to maximize the pandemic, or the change that I had, as much as I could during these past 10 months. In terms of I filled my time when I realized I wasn't going to be getting back on stage. And don't get me wrong, that took a lot. That was harder on me than you think as an entertainer, someone who's been on stage since I was 10 to this year. I've never not been performing. It was weird to have that ripped away. And I really did feel that, because I guess I really do feel like I'm an applause whore. And so when that disappeared, man, that was some getting used to, because I was just so used to just getting in my car every day, driving down to Pittsburgh and doing a show, whether it 52 Up Close at the hotel, or if I was doing one of my other shows at Liberty Magic. I was ingrained into a steady diet of applause, and to have that just ripped away from me was a new experience for sure. I never thought that could be possible. But when I figured that I couldn't be on stage at the moment, I had to look at not only the entrepreneurial and the business element of my career. I also looked at this opportunity as a time to really reflect on what I did to get where I am today, and to plot my next journey. So I spent a lot of time writing, working on those. I have a stack of files in my office of the ideas that I'll get to eventually. And so that stack of file came into play very quickly, because I had time to really look at these ideas and expand on them and write on them and go and start to plan. It's funny, is like during the time going into the pandemic, right in March, I actually had a deal in place with a network to do a TV series, and
anything that you can divulge.
I can talk a little bit about it because of how the year went through. I can tell you some of the things that have happened with that project. It was a really strange thing because in 2019, I had just come off the show Houdini's Last Secrets on Discovery Channel, and there was talk of us doing a season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And as we got into that dialogue, the network decided that they didn't want to go with a season 2. There were some details that popped up. And so we decided to then start focusing on an individual project or a brand new project just for me. And that was with the production company that helped me create Houdini's Last Secrets that I worked on. And so whenever we started going down that path, we decided to create, a new sizzle for a brand new idea of a show that I worked with the production company on. So we filmed in Pittsburgh in late of 2019. And as that project started to gain traction, the sizzle reel was cut. It was then pitched and sold as I believe an 8-episode show or series for the network.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that would have been international. So we were trying to film in Japan and China. So we were trying to go all over the world with this stuff.
Yeah, so nothing that big.
What's that?
Nothing that big then,
Nothing too well, yeah. And even the ideas that I would be doing on the show, they were big. Like they were big ideas. And as we were getting into all the the details of contracts and creative and all that was starting to line up, we then put the pilot filming on the calendar, and I got set in stone for the end of March. Yeah, to film the pilot. And it was a pilot plus 7, meaning like, we filmed the pilot and then we potentially were going on to film 7 more episodes and having the show come out at the end of 2020.
Right.
So, and that was how it was supposed to go. It didn't go that way. So once the world
spoiler
changed,
alert, it didn't go that way.
Yeah. Hindsight being 2020, I wish it would have. But because it would have been an incredible year. But being that, once the writing was on the wall that we weren't going to be filming internationally, that was off the table. We were, network was chopping episodes and the amount of money and, so it was a snowball effect to get to even where I got in 2020 with the pandemic and the potential of a TV series. So as we were still trying to film this pilot, we kept getting pushed because of COVID. And we got to a point where I was going to shoot it in July in Austin, Texas. And if you think Texas in July is not a good combination of ideas outside and cameras and
a little warm.
A little warm. But we were desperate. We wanted to just get this pilot filmed because the network wanted it. Because in a way Hollywood was in a weird transition. They weren't creating new content, but yet they were still producing content to be created. So we wanted to get it made because we knew if we got it made in 2020 and we got it in their hands. One of being the only people to film a pilot in 2020, that's I'm sitting in a rare company.
Right. So I think a lot of people's standard for quality, and not to say that yours wasn't going to be quality, but I think a lot of people's standard for quality for things that they've seen in 2020 has dropped pretty drastically. Like people are telling me that they're watching certain things. Like, you got to check it out. It's great. And then I sit down and I watch it and it's okay at best. And I'm like, we're desperate.
We are currently living through the TikTok generation.
Yeah. We're desperate.
Yeah. And it's just we're consuming media so hard now and so fast that, but no, when you can create something that's good and long, people will appreciate it and you'll get their time. I was amazed when Houdini's Last Secrets came out, the amount of people, that watched it live every Sunday night, because watching television live, this wasn't a thing, right? That escaped us for I feel like a long time, because we live in such a generation of where we just record and we come back to it and we watch it at our own leisure. So I was impressed with how many people were watching my show live. And then I was really impressed with, the amount of people just in this area, after shows, of people that would come up to me and and say, I watched your show, I watched all 4, I binged it in a week. Like that was kind of like, that was really cool to hear how many people were not only just like watching like 5 minutes of it, but we're watching the entire arc of all 4 episodes. And then to hear what the numbers were on the show. So the show did really, really well in all the demographics. And so that's why there was a talk of a potential more episodes. So, but like you said, like we consume media so differently these days that when you're trying to make media during a pandemic, it is complicated, man. But I was able to get 1 episode filmed for it.
Oh, okay.
And we ended up shooting it in end of September. So we got pushed all the way to the end of September. Now, the crazy thing is that they originally I was going to fly in, film for 10 days, fly out. But because of COVID, the network was so nervous of having me flying to Texas because the chance, like if I would contract COVID, I shut down the entire operation because it's my show. I'm on camera. Whereas
we've all heard Tom Cruise. We know.
No. I just mean like if someone else gets it, we can navigate, right? Where the network's spending all this money to film. Where if so this is what was crazy about it. They asked me to drive. So I had to drive. Yeah, that's what sucked. So trust me, I wish they could have treated me Tom Cruise like, and they could have just rolled out the jet. I didn't get the jet.
Did you see? Did you watch Andrew Schultz Saves America?
Yes.
He caught COVID like right at the beginning of shooting that. They had to shut the whole production down. Everybody on the team got it.
I had heard the story. Yeah.
Yeah. So that as soon as you said that, I was like, this actually happened. Like it's not just a precaution that they want to take. Yes. That's like, it's a little over the top.
If that would have happened, they're spending a lot of money on to produce. I mean, like way more than like it really did feel like when I was on set, because it's an escape show and I'm doing big escapes. And when I was on set and I was like looking around and seeing that there was like 40 people all doing stuff and EMTs and police and it was wild. There was a gallery of people that were up on a hill that were just random people that were, lived in the neighborhood that were filming because they thought they were going to see somebody famous. Like, it really did feel like a day on like, Mission Impossible set. Like, but no, it went really, really well. We were able to get 1 episode in the can, and then back to Pittsburgh I came. But what's funny is when I was down in Texas filming this for 10 days, when I filmed Houdini's Last Secrets in 2019, on my first episode of that show, I do the Houdini water torture cell escape. And so the Discovery Channel, they made that specifically for me.
Okay.
And being when the show wrapped, there was a gigantic water torture cell just sitting there. And it was like, what are you guys doing with this thing? And it was like, can I have it? And of course they were like, yeah, it's yours. It was made for you. So I was like, great. How do I get it? You know what I mean? It's a gigantic, super, super, super heavy piece of apparatus. So I told the network, I said, listen, can you just put this in your warehouse and I'll find a time to get it here, to get it back to Pittsburgh, right? Well, over the course of the next year, I never did. I left it down there, right? So whenever we decided to film the pilot in Austin, Texas, I knew that was where my water torture cell was. That's where it's stationed, right? So whenever the network said, we want you to drive because of COVID, I used it as an opportunity to get a truck. So I asked them,
nice.
So I asked them to get me a flatbed truck. They did. And so after the last day of filming, I took my rental truck. I went over to where the warehouse was, where the water torture cell was, and I loaded that thing onto the back of the truck, and I drove it 1,800 miles all the way back to Pittsburgh. And now I have the water torture cell from Houdini's Last Secrets in my garage.
So how mobile is it? So how, like,
not very mobile.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are you gonna do with it now?
So 2 things. I got 2 plans for it. One is I'm going to be using it again at some point in time in the near future for either a big performance in town, something Houdini 100-esque, or it may get used in a live show. down the line.
Right on. Well, we'll definitely be
of
getting into Houdini 100 and just your Houdini's last secrets and stuff like that. I want to just at some point we're going to tackle all things Houdini with you because
sure. Oh, dude, yeah, man, and that's been a big and a big chunk of my last decade of my life was was Harry and all the weird things he's blessed me with, man. Getting to know the family and all the incredible connections I've made around the world, through his incredible gift that he gave us all those years ago, and an inspiration to so many magicians. And then being able to, one, touch history in Pittsburgh with his name on it, and then two, to live out, on television his big tricks. So
right, and just being legendary, right? He's
nothing cooler than that, man. Not like being able to stand in his shoes for a day is always a pleasure. I've said multiple times, like when I was hanging upside down in downtown Pittsburgh in the exact location of Harry, I really, man, it was really a really cool feeling because I got to experience exactly what he got to experience 100 years before me. And that was what was so exciting for me to do it.
We might as well. I mean, we're talking about it. We might as well just get into it.
But I mean, anybody that's listening that is not familiar with Houdini 100, essentially it was a project that came out of a really, really interesting scenario. Essentially what I did, the end of the story is that I replicated a Harry Houdini stunt in downtown Pittsburgh. But how I got there was, I think it was a cool journey. When I was growing up as a magician, I've been so lucky. I had a mentor. I had a magician mentor who I eventually, his name is Paul Gertner. He's not only a fantastic magician, but he's also an incredible businessman in the art of magic.
How early did you meet him?
So I have a really strange connection. Everything with me is always, there's always there's a weird story behind everything I do. My connection with him was when I was a young magician. I was like 12, 13 years old. My godmother had told me that she knew a magician that was really good and that he was doing a show in Pittsburgh, and she wanted to take me to see him. And I was, absolutely, I want to go see a magic show. I was just getting into magic, but I was a little cocky magician. I thought I knew everything.
Of course.
But I didn't know who Paul Gertner was yet. And then when I went and saw Paul Gertner and I saw his level of magic and where he was, and it just blew me away. I didn't realize that level of magic existed, that level of talent. And so after the show, she went up and introduced me to him. But when she introduced me to him, she said, "Hey, Lee, this is Paul Gertner, one of my old boyfriends." So my godmother dated, who would become my mentor, dated him in high school. And of course, when Paul was meeting me in that moment, he's shaking my hand going, "I don't know who this kid is, but why is my ex-girlfriend from 30 years ago standing here?" Right? You know what I mean? It's like
he's like trying to do the math. Like, is this my kid?
That introduction and seeing his show lit the match for me to continue on this journey. And it was, I then, looked into Paul and got to know who Paul was and pursued him and looked at him as a mentor, because I was fascinated with not only his ability as a magician and his talent, but I was fascinated by the entrepreneurial aspect of what he was able to do with his talent. And that's why I latched on to him very quickly. And he was very, very receptive to me and open to sharing secrets with me and information. And over time, I became kind of like Paul's right-hand man whenever he would do shows. Like, I knew his show inside and out, so I would run all the tech, right? I was the one pushing all the buttons and controlling the lights, setting up all the tricks and stuff. And so there came a time in 2010 when I was invited on the road with him, and he took me to New York. And it was whenever we were in New York City, I was helping him run his show. The day after his show, we were getting ready to leave. He said to me, he said, "Lee, do you want to go see if we can find Harry Houdini?" And it was like, at that moment where I was kind of like, "Paul, we're going to go see Harry Houdini. Where are we going to, where's he at?" Like, I thought he was buried in like Appleton, Wisconsin, because when Harry came to America, he ended up settling in Appleton, Wisconsin. So I just naturally assumed that that's where he would probably be buried. But Paul knew he wasn't. He knew he was buried in Queens. And
okay.
so we got in a car and went to Queens, and we went to this old cemetery, and we went and we found Harry Houdini's grave. And it was at that moment when we got to hang out at Harry Houdini's grave. It's me, a magician I look up to, and then the greatest magician of all time. We're sitting at this grave talking magic tricks. And then it was like a little serendipity, because when we came back to Pittsburgh, Paul gave me a book. Actually, I have the book. I have the book right here. You're going to see this is a gigantic book, right? Huge book. I have it under glass at the moment. But what it is, it's an extremely rare magic book, right? And in the book.
Oh, yeah. And people just don't keep books in those giant cases like that,
On the regular? No. Not like this.
You're just a big book fanatic?
No, I am actually a huge book fanatic. I am. I do collect old books and old magic books and stuff like that. But this book was very special because when Paul gave it to me, I didn't know this was going to happen, obviously. But that evening, after visiting Harry Houdini's grave, I came home and opened this book. And I went through this thing. It's absolutely, it's an insane book. It's an absolutely beautiful book, right?
Yeah.
But as I go through this book, I came to this photo that ultimately would change my life, because that photo is the image from Harry Houdini in downtown Pittsburgh. So this is the actual photo. That's in amazing. The book that I discovered. Harry is right. He's right here. He's really hard to see.
Yeah, I see him
there. And then the building, it says the Pittsburgh Post, and it's dated in the corner on November 6, 1916. So as I discover that image that evening after visiting Harry Houdini's grave, and I discovered that Pittsburgh connection, that was the moment. That was the aha moment where I really thought about, wow, I'm a Pittsburgh guy. I can do the straitjacket escape. Maybe someday I can do that. And it was at that moment that idea entered my brain, that it was, no, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do it on the exact same day, 100 years to the moment it happened. And not only that, then I just kept taking it further. Not only that, I want to do it at the exact same location that it happened, right in front of that building. So I got to find out where that building is. I got to find out where he did it. I want to, right. What exact time was it? What was, I uncovered every stone I could. I called Rick Seaback and I said, Rick, what do you know about this? What can details? I want information. And for the next
shout out to Rick Seaback.
What's that? I
said shout out to Rick Seaback.
Shout out to Ricky, man. He's the man. He is the man when it comes to this stuff. And he's so nice.
I'd love to talk to him.
He's always there to give me, to pick up the phone, and he's so generous with his time. He's such a good Pittsburgher. So he was such a big help in the process in the very beginning. And once I started to get all my details and I started to cement the idea, then it became from, okay, the concept's there. And not only that, I wanted to replicate the photo. So that was one of my main things I wanted to do, is I wanted to replicate that photo in that book. Could I put myself in the exact same position, have thousands of people there, and get the exact same image 100 years to the moment? That was the goal. Could I do it? And that's what I worked on for the next 5.5 years. I just completely dedicated myself to that idea. I remember I would tell people this. Hey, I would have people take out their cell phones. I'd say, go to 2016, go to November 6th, put in Houdini. And I would have people save that in their phone, because that's how confident I was that they would be standing there that day. I would project those ideas. I would tell people, and as crazy as it was coming out of my mouth, it held me accountable. The more right. I felt, the more I committed to it, the more I couldn't back out. Right? As closer as time got closer and closer and closer to it. But as I got through the process of cutting through the red tape, or figuring out if I could do this, reaching out to working with the mayor of Pittsburgh and the city and setting everything in motion, then it became, if I can do this on that date and make all these things happen, well, the goal is to share it with the city of Pittsburgh. There was no cover charge. It was a free event. I just wanted people to come and experience a little bit of history in Pittsburgh and some magic. And then it was, how crazy can we take it? Can I get Rick, can I get Rick Seaback to show up? Could I get Franco Harris and Rocky Blyer, who is from Appleton, Wisconsin? So this is the Houdini connection of hometown.
Right. Yeah.
Can I get these guys? Can I get Tom Savini, who's a friend, to put me in the straitjacket? Like Harry would back in his time. He would get the big strong men. So big Steelers, I think, would be kind of cool.
Right.
And so once those ideas started coming out of my mouth, right, and then it was, let's see if we can make them happen. And I always joke because I know Franco very well, and he's a sweet guy. I've done a lot of shows for him over the years, and I love him because having him there, I always joke. I say a lot of people, when you came to see that stunt, it's unfortunate. It's like watching a stunt like that. It's like watching a train wreck, right? You're kind of rooting for something bad and crazy to happen, right?
I promise you I was not. I was there. Okay, well, I was not rooting for anything bad to happen.
Well, in my mind, having Franco there, I knew I was in good hands because he would catch me if I fell, right? The immaculate reception of me would happen. But no, it was these layers of the onion that as I peeled them away, the more energized I became about putting the project, together. And I couldn't wait to announce it because I'd been working on it for 5.5 years, So I announced it 100 days out, and then the marketing in me kicked in, and then it was, how do I publicize this thing and get people to join me on that date? And needless to say, it went off without a hitch. Thousands of people rolled out to it, and as they say, it went the way it couldn't have went any better, man, because it could have rained, and there's so many things that I was rolling the dice hard on, and luckily it played out for me, and it worked out.
That is actually kind of incredible, because I remember being in the crowd. Me and a couple friends are walking up to the crowd, and I'm looking around and I'm going, there's no way to pull this inside. Like if it ever rained or whatever, there was no plan B for this.
That day, no matter what, man. Like,
yeah.
No one wants to see Houdini 101. Right? You can't push it a day.
Right.
But that was the thing about it. Like when Harry did it in Pittsburgh, he set the date in stone and the location. So those things were unmovable. It was all working around. And to be honest with you, I hit a Sunday. So November 6, 2016, that was a Sunday morning that I had to do that. Sunday at noon. I mean, November, that's Steelers season. That's a Steelers Sunday. And so whenever we were starting out in the process of earlier in that year, I was waiting for the schedule to come out, because depending upon how the Steeler game hit was going to determine what time I actually did it. Because if it was a 1 o'clock home game, they're not letting me shut down all those roads.
Right.
So, or they might, but they're going to give me a tighter window. So what I was going to do was I was looking at every scenario. If it was a home game, I actually was in talk with the Steelers to do it for their halftime show.
Oh, okay.
That was one of they were going to beam it in live on the Jumbotron to the stadium from downtown Pittsburgh. That was idea number one. Idea number two was I was just hoping for a freaking bye, right? Just get the bye. No one cares about the Steelers that Sunday. Everybody comes out to watch your thing. No, everything's good. Did that happen? No. I got hit with an away game at 1 o'clock at the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah. So what I did is I leaned into it. I just say, hey, listen, Pittsburgh, anybody that shows up, we're going to do an after party where you can all watch the game at. The performance will be done by 1 o'clock. Like you'll have more than enough time to go somewhere. And it was like in the marketing, I definitely was putting that out there to so people, because I know how Pittsburghers are. Like a 1 o'clock game on a Sunday at away, you're not getting out of your bed till 11:30, right?
Right.
Like the average Pittsburgher, they're waking up and they're going outside watching the game. Like that's what's happening. So those were one of the details I had to work around, and luckily it worked out, and people still came out to see it, and then we're able to still go and
What time did
watch
you
it.
actually end up doing it? I
We
forget,
did it
like
exactly at noon.
at noon. Yeah,
At noon,
I
yeah.
I
We started.
remember getting moving a little earlier that day because usually
Yeah, you
it's
would
like
have to be
usually a
downtown
noon.
by like 11:30 because at 11:30, like I had one of my best friends is DJ Scott, and I had him like I wanted it to feel like a party. You know what I mean? I told him I was like I want the audience like like it's a club outside, and so it felt like there was a lot of energy out there, and then finally but I told all my people that were helping me run the show. I said, no, I want to go exactly at noon. I don't want no hold ups. So, because I got to be the guy that has to go up and do the thing.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? I just want to do it. Like I've been looking forward to this moment for 5.5 years. I've been training for it for a year because I was doing inversion therapy, like for the blood circulation, and I had put so many over 10,000 hours of my life into that 15-minute performance, stepping on stage, getting the straitjacket, being inverted, going up, getting the photo, beaming me out over the audience, going up to 100 feet, doing it, having the straitjacket drop, whipping out the terrible towel, spinning that thing, and then bringing me back down. It was all logistically all planned out. Like I played it out a zillion times. My biggest fear was that my terrible towel would have dropped before I was able to do it.
I actually was just thinking about that. I didn't even consider it in the moment, but whenever I knew that we were going to sit down and have this conversation, I was like, what if you would have lost the terrible towel? Like that was like the coup de grace, the whole thing.
Would have never left. They would have used it against me for their end of time, man. So that was my biggest. I was so nervous about the terrible towel for sure.
So did you just kind of have it relatively loose? You didn't really secure it?
I had, when I was going into it, I had put it in my back pocket, right? And I had tucked it in there pretty good. But the minute they put that straitjacket on my arms and they started, buckling me in my head, like as I'm getting into this position, I'm now sitting on the thing. In my head, I'm going, oh shit, is that thing gonna stay?
Right.
Because I'm about to go inverted, and I thought it might
and you're
fall
struggling
out,
and everything.
or when I'm struggling. I had never performed it with I had never tried doing it upside down with that terrible towel in my back pocket. So I didn't. That was a completely unknown element that I could not control, and it was the one thing that freaked me out the most. I wasn't scared by the height. I wasn't scared at anything. I was excited to do it. I was just more worried about that one detail, because if I'm at the end, if it would have fluttered out beforehand and I didn't have that as the cap, that would have sucked. So
that was such a cool event, and I loved like seeing like the drones flying around that were getting shots of you, and like, have you ever been tagged in so many things in your entire life?
Yeah, I got tagged in a lot of stuff, and hundreds of thousands of things like that. It felt like, when the TV show was on, when that had come out and was on every Sunday night live around the world, hearing, getting tagged by people in Australia and England and
right.
in random countries, and telling me they were fans, and that's so cool when your art has that type of reach, and so I think that was one of the more that was one of the crazier times of my career. But Houdini 100, man, I've never been tagged in so many things in Pittsburgh. So
yeah, well, I can imagine that for sure. So like, do you consider that like a trick? Is that a stunt? Like, what's the, like, I'm sure there are categories, right?
Houdini 100 would be classified as a stunt. Straight jacket escape is definitely, when you're doing it at that height. That's a full blown stunt. There's a lot of risk going into that type of stuff. I mean, there's at any moment in time, like if something goes the way it's not supposed to go, you can die. So there's a lot of that on the table. So, but you as a performer, as someone who does this for a living and puts myself in those situations, I understand all that. And I have trained and have educated myself and, worked out all the possibilities. But like I said, there's always something that can sneak in and blow it up. But so far I've been pretty
Categories,
lucky.
like, is there tricks, stunts, other things like
Yeah, oh yeah. Everything kind of has its
what's the
own kind
lingo?
of so all of it kind of falls under the art, right? The art of magic. But under the art of magic, there's a lot of extensions, right? There's escapism, which is, what the straitjacket escape is, or, handcuff escapes. There's illusions, which is like what David Copperfield does, big illusions. There's parlor magic, where it's your quote unquote like your stand-up magician, where you'd see like a small gathering. There's close-up magic, where you're very intimate. It's very, under your nose almost. There's comedy magic. There's mentalism. Like I said, there are literally almost different subgroups of forms of the art of magic.
It sounds like a bunch of religions. Like it's like a giant religion,
right? It
like
does.
the little parts of them.
To give you a better understanding of it, it's like under music, right? You got music, but then you got country, you got classical, you got pop, you have all these little extensions of music. Same with magic. It's like you got the art of magic and deception and fooling people, but then you break them down into the unique ways you can do it, right? And that's what's been so fun. As a magician coming up, I got into sleight of hand with a deck of cards. That's what pulled me in really quick, was playing cards. But then when I was in, I realized that there were a zillion other ways to do things that were amazing. And it was all falling under this umbrella of magic. And I was still learning these really cool secrets. But I was getting to play with mentalism, and I was getting to play, try out my, an illusion, get into the illusion world. Like I own some pretty big illusions that have come into play, for shows or corporate events and stuff like that. And those are so much fun to do for an audience, because they all have like different reactions.
Right.
There's, certain tricks I do in my show. I know the reaction I'm going to get. I know when I'm going to get a certain laugh. But when I get to mix and match all these different forms of magic, it's like creating your own little, symphony. And you get to pull all the strings as the magician, and I'm conducting it, but yet when the notes are hitting, man, and the tricks are landing during a performance, man, it's really like a cool dance out there on stage. It's what it feels like to me.
Right. Well, so as you're saying that there's all these different variations under like the magic umbrella, is there one that like you lean towards? Is there one that maybe not even that you lean towards? Because I'm sure just being a magician, there's probably some pride in like being very well versed. But like, is there one that you like the most?
Sleight of hand with cards is probably my favorite thing to do for people. Don't get me wrong, I love just performing for people in general, no matter what it is. And I love finding unique ways to connect with audiences, whether through personal experiences, with my personal experiences, with, stuff that's in pop culture. I love tying things together with a common thread, or pulling on the heartstrings a little bit. I'm very much as a magician. I like walking the world of an actor and trying to use all these cool tools that I have as an entertainer, as an artist, to paint a really interesting evening of deception for you. And cards for me have been one of the things I've gotten to explore the most in time, because they just caught me so early on. And so I've always been fascinated with how I can just use a deck of cards to connect with an audience. They're one of the things I think I love them so much, because when you're a magician, right? If you're a big stage illusionist, right? And you can't do that impromptu anywhere. Like you can't be like, hey, let me go wheel out with this big trunk and do this cool thing for you. It doesn't work like that. Whereas a deck of cards is something I can have on me every day in my back pocket, and no matter where I'm out in the world, we may not be able to communicate verbally. But if I take out a deck of cards, and I start doing stuff with a pack of cards, like spinning them on my finger, immediately we're making a connection. I'm making a connection with that person, and they're going, wait, how are you doing? What? Oh, and then I take them out, and then the minute you break out a deck of cards, and I give them, and you just give them one of these, immediately they know what you are and what you're going to do for them, right? And so now I can do a magic trick for somebody, and like I said, not be able to say anything else, but I can amaze them and have them walk away with a memory of an interaction that would have not been possible, if I didn't have these on me.
Is there a foundation? Like, is there? I have to imagine with the things that you're able to do with cards, that there's like a cards 101. Like, you need to have this skill, or you need to be able to do this thing with cards first, and then once you can do that, then you can expand on that, and then
absolutely, the basics, the very, very fundamental basics, is just being able to just literally handle and shuffle a pack of cards. Now, don't get me wrong, there are magicians out there that purposely don't want to learn card technique because they want their magic to look even more impressive if they're not doing all the cool stuff that they with their fingers. So right. If you take away all that and then you still do something amazing, but yet you've used nothing flashy, sometimes that can paint a really impressive picture for somebody. And then when you're doing, when they think that you can almost do anything with a pack of cards, right? Well, but the basic, when you're getting into the basics of card magic right out the gate, I mean, just there's certain literally, learning just simply how to just do a simple, just a simple bridge, that's a starting, it's a great starting, but you got to learn how to do that, because as you start to go, you can learn how to do the bridge shuffle, and then you can learn how to start, once you start to dive in, then you can learn how to do a bridge shuffle, and we can do it one-handed. That's a lot further down the path of magic, Right. I mean, you're thousands of hours in at that point, but that just shows you where you can go, right? To do this, like when I even teach this to people. What I'll do is I'll say, no, you don't want to start with an entire pack of cards, right? They're going to be everywhere. I want you to take almost a third of the deck. So I say, take a third of the deck. And a lot of people, when they want to do that move, they do it out here. That's not how you do it. Not a professional can do it out there, right? A professional can do it out there. You're not a professional. Don't do it out there. Where you're going to do it is you're going to do it close to your body. This is how you learn. Because if you're doing it close to your body, you're using your body as kind of like the wall to catch the cards. So if you would start with maybe a third of the pack of cards, I would then show people, look, you put 4 fingers at the the base of the cards. The thumb is at the edge. But now when you're gonna put pressure into the pack, right? You're gonna put pressure, and essentially what's gonna happen is those cards are gonna come off your thumb. That's all what's happening. That's the move. Yeah. Now, when you're able to do the move and you've done it a billion times, you're able to do it with an entire pack of cards in the air and control them all. But when you're just starting out, you take a third of the deck of cards, about a third of the deck of cards, you hold them towards your body, and you just practice nice and close that move, right? You're just doing that. And as you do this, and your thumb builds up that muscle memory, you need the muscle memory in your thumb and in your fingers. And once you start doing that, then you can start moving your hand away. You can start building out the distance. And then as you do that, then you add in more cards, right? And you're adding in the whole deck. So then you can go from here, then you can bring it out, and then you can go even a little bit bigger. And then you can even, like I said, you can do it in where you don't need the catch. So
quality, is there, like, I've obviously have played with cards, like anybody that's played poker or solitaire or whatever. If you've played more than one game with a different, with different decks, as long as they're a legitimately different brand or anything like that, you can actually feel the difference in quality of cards. What Absolutely. Is that? Is that a factor in anything that you do?
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. I only work with cards that are printed by the U.S. Playing Card Company. They were in Cincinnati, Ohio. They're now right across the river, Louisville, Kentucky. They've set the bar so high in their printing of their cards. They're the number one in the world. There's been a lot of places around the world, China and in different parts of Asia, where they have gotten close, but no one has come close. No one has replicated. It's almost like the $100 bill. Like there's super notes out there, right, that can come close, but nobody has replicated the U.S. Playing Card Company's quality. It's just too good. So I use this crushed finished deck of cards. These are called Monarchs. I use Monarchs. They're about, if you would buy them in the retail space, they run for about $12 a deck of cards, maybe even a little higher sometimes, because sometimes they go out of print and they're hard to get. So right. Sometimes they'll go up and they'll be $15, $20 a deck of cards. Now, don't get me wrong. Can you still get the $2, $3 bicycle deck of cards? You can. Is there a difference in quality between these and them? There is. And it's surprisingly pretty big. So what Bicycle is putting out, even though it's on a crushed finish and I think it's their 808 stock, it's still a high end. It's still the pinnacle of playing cards. But they do have even higher end paper and printing techniques. And so when the Monarchs were printed, I think they just, because they're more or less like a royal, they're very much like a royal looking card. They went for the highest of the high, I think, on all the stuff. And so that's why I prefer these cards over anything. I can open a brand new pack and know instantly if the blade that chopped them was dull. I can feel the edges of a pack of cards. And there's a technique you can do where I can feel an edge of deck of cards and I can tell whether or not they were like pristine, like super cut, or like dull blade cut, and you can tell. And so if they're a dull blade cut pack of cards, they're not. So there's certain shuffles that I'm giving that all have like different names. If I start to give them like a Pharaoh shuffle and they're not Pharaoh shuffling, they're shit. They're a shit deck of cards. You throw them away. They're never gonna behave in my hands the way I want them to. So, but Monarchs have been cards that, they seem to just, the quality has been so good over the years that any deck of cards I've ever opened from Monarchs, they have been perfect. And that's why when I'm using decks of cards, I go for the best of the best. Just because, it makes it so that when I'm doing all these hard things, that they do exactly what I want them to do. But because how it works is really, other than getting a bad chopped deck of cards or lower quality in terms of the paper, what happens really is, like, as the cards are brand new and your oils from your hands start to get on the edge of the deck of cards, they really start to break in. Now that's a good thing. You can break a deck of cards in and they can be butter in your hands. But what happens is eventually they kind of lose the oils in your fingers, will cause the cards to lose their almost their elasticity. Yeah. Whereas like doing this will still work, but when a cards really start to get like really worked in, they almost become like a bar deck. You've seen bar decks before. Yeah. They get like a bend in them, and they almost start to look a little bit bigger than 52 cards. Yeah. That's when they're junk. Like when they get too worked in, where they don't have any get. Like I can fling cards like this, and they'll jump. They will jump off the pack of cards that I can catch, and they're shooting pretty far into the air, right? But when that that doesn't happen anymore, I throw them away. So I go through in a given year. In a given year that's not a pandemic, I go through around 350 to 400 packs of cards a year. When I'm doing regular shows. Yeah, it's a lot of playing card, buying a lot of playing cards. So and the reason why is that a pack of cards in my hands will only last a few hours, because I ruin cards. I sign them, I tear them, I'm bending them, and as cards are getting removed from the pack of cards, once 10 to 12 cards are gone, the cards become too thin. So once they're too thin to work with, they get junked, and I open a brand new pack.
Yeah.
So I'm almost always working with new decks of cards, and that's what my fingers like. So
That's great. Well, because I know I just happen to be perusing your site because I try not to come into things completely unprepared. I looked at your website and I saw your store.
oh yeah,
Those are not cheap.
no, there's expensive playing cards out there, man. Yeah, and it's funny, like as one of the like side hustles I've always kind of done is I've always done like, the merch and printing my own playing cards and having my own stuff. But there are certain playing cards out there that like I love the art that goes into crafting a pack of cards. I think it's one of the coolest art forms. It's literally it's like making 52 like paintings.
Right.
It's 52 pieces of work. It's 52 pieces of artwork all crammed into one little cool design box. It's like when I would perform, there is a piece of magic that I do in my show that it teeters on the art world, right? And it's something I do with the Mona Lisa. But I talk about how a deck of cards is really just a little box of art. Like people don't realize the intricate detail that went into crafting the back design. When you look at the like the face cards, like the detail that goes into a playing card is pretty amazing. And the same way there are works of art out there that are very rare. It's the same with the playing cards. There are very rare works of arts of playing cards out there. And the rarer they are, the more expensive they become. That's just the nature of how art works.
Right.
And there are packs of cards out there that go for thousands of dollars. And it's just it's a cool little world, man. But at the end of the day, they're just regular decks of cards. But it's like I said, it's about the crafting of the art that goes into it. It's really fun.
Right. Well, so we're talking about cards, but I've seen you use definitely more props than just cards. What goes into choosing how you like what props you use, the quality of them? Like how do you sort that out with all of your other tricks?
Yeah, so there are some companies that have been around in the magic world the weird world of magic is that magicians, we, as much as we are like performers, we're also like really like inventors. And as being like our own little inventors, when we create magic, there becomes almost like a marketplace amongst ourselves where we trade and sell each other secrets and props, right? So if there's like a cool trick that maybe David Blaine does that he has done on his show, 9 times out of 10, somebody in the magic community created that trick for David so he would do it on his show. So then what I would do is if I saw David do it, I would maybe call the guy that I know that created that magic trick he's now letting people do it.
Right.
Maybe I have a cool spin on it that I want to give. If I call him and I'm like, hey man, will you grant me access, or will you, you can pay for it. Some people will, create their own lecture notes and you can buy their lecture notes. And because they're selling you the actual tangible idea that's written in these lecture notes, once you've paid for it and it's in your possession, you in a way, you've gained access to that secret.
Right.
And then you can go and do whatever you want with it. Now there are some guys out there that they've created businesses out of this, meaning like when David Copperfield wants to put a big illusion in his show, he goes out and finds one of these guys and they build it for him. Now, are they just going to build one for David? Some of them, sometimes yes, but sometimes they go, well, if it's good enough for David can do it for a period of time. Great. It's seen television. Now there's a whole slew of guys that want to try it or do it or so then if they build, a really cool illusion, you can then have them build it for you and you get your hands on it. So it's kind of a give and take of ideas and your art and the art that you want to present to your audience. So there's, like I said, there's so many ways to put together a magic show. And that's what's so fun about being a magician and picking and choosing the content.
Right. So like even though these are like, they look like household, whatever, right? Household items. They're actually not that like they're trick or whatever, but they're specially made to kind of be.
Sometimes they're not. That's the amazing thing about magic. Sometimes I can direct you to a piece of magic that is done by Teller of Penn and Teller, right? He does a piece on stage. It's simply a vase on stage with a rose.
Mm-hmm.
There's a white sheet behind him, and there's a light, and they're casting a shadow onto the vase and the rose, onto the sheet. And he simply takes out a knife and he makes little gestures at the sheet of the shadow, and then it becomes real. And the petals from the rose fall off the exact same moment, or the leaf falls off, as he cuts, So it's like there are so much magic out there. It can be done with almost anything, right?
Right.
And sometimes, yes, it can be very, very elaborate, and sometimes it can be almost so simple. And sometimes the simple stuff, like just the shadow and a knife, just those simple little things, can almost be more impressive than anything you can do that's elaborate.
All right. So this is
when you're ready for an elaborate trick, I will close with one for you.
All right. Well, I have like a spot that we can throw that in there. But so now we've gone down so many awesome rabbit holes. Like I'm nowhere close to being like on task with like how I had this laid out, and I do not care. Like that's the kind of the best part about doing these podcasts is like I actually don't care what direction they go in. I just need to have one so that I feel like I'm prepared. But so I guess I'm gonna like slightly get myself back on track here. Like, believe it or not, like I just had a really hard time figuring out how to approach this with you. I've seen you do things that like don't seem humanly possible. So, but when I said that to myself, then something else popped into my head. Have you ever heard of Arthur C. Clarke's third law?
Arthur C. Clarke's third law. Well, it is definitely ringing a bell on something for me right now.
All right.
I know I've heard the name, but I'm not remembering what the third law was.
Arthur C. Clarke's third law is any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic or a miracle.
Oh, I have heard this, yes.
And then in the first Thor movie, he kind of makes a little nod to Clarke's third law, saying, your ancestors call it magic, but you call it science. I come from a place where they're one and the same. Mm-hmm. So you're not like the Norse god of thunder by any means, but you for sure are basically a superhero. Like straight up, like that was like, I was like, how do I synthesize this into something that like works correctly in my brain? So my super nerd brain that loves Star Wars and comic books and everything like this was like, Lee is an entrepreneurial superhero.
You know what? It's a weird like space to live in as an entertainer, because as a magician, because I am supposed to do what's impossible, right? And that has the superhero characteristics of it. But at the end of the day, I'm not. I take off the cape, I take off the mask, because I'm really just a guy that has information, that has studied information that 99.999% of the world would never pick up and read and understand and want to care about. But the information I'm reading, it has human interaction capabilities. Like when I'm learning the secrets of magic, of course, what do I want to do? I want to test them. And in testing them, that's what gives me the opportunity to get better at them. And as getting better at them, it gives the perception to an audience that you have these magical powers. Dude, I'm floored all the time after shows when people, think that I can really do these, like I can really read their mind, or I really have these, people ask me what the lottery numbers are. I'm like, lady, if I could tell you this, I wouldn't be standing here right now. But when you see magic live, it sometimes is so impressive because everybody doesn't get a chance to see magic live. I would say so many people only see magic in one place, and that's on television or on their phones.
Right.
Seeing it live, it almost it literally just fucks you up. It really can. And I have a set of skills, right? If I were to quote Liam Neeson, I have a set of skills that you do not have, and I am exploiting my skills in a way that is designed to bust your brain. Like, that's what I do. That's why I'm good at what I do, is because I'm able to essentially, I'm really good at gaslighting you into what I am telling you and having you believe it. And I think that's a part of magic, that when you can hook an audience, just like when you get an audience singing along to your song, that's a cool, like, as a performer, if you're singing a song and they're singing the lyrics, there's nothing like better than that, right? When they're singing your art to you. Yeah. That's a cool moment. Well, as a magician, if I can suck you into a piece and have you captivated and mind boggled by it and talking about it, well, that's where I know what I'm doing is hitting perfectly. And I think that's the fun in being a magician, is being able to play that fantasy title to people every day. And but yet, it's like I said, it's just, I have information you do not, and I'm having fun with it.
Well, I mean, yeah, you definitely have information that we don't. But I think that's kind of a cool way of, because it's like that, the third law being that, like, it talks about, really advanced technology, which is truly just information. So, like, that's why I was able to kind of make the bridge to you, to that being, that statement applying to you being that you're a magician and whatnot. So I've kind of explained myself in the whole Lee is a superhero thing. So, but the whole, my like favorite part of the podcast is, which I guess I'm going to change what I usually call it. I'm going to say, now I want to hear your origin story, because that's what fits superheroes better. So I'm sure you've kind of like told this spiel a million times and kind of have it down to a science, but like, Can you give everybody the story of your professional journey from first watching your cousin do tricks at a family party to like now being like the snazzy suit wearing master of the mystical arts that you are now?
I will say it has been quite a journey since I was a 9-year-old, 9-year-old kid seeing magic in my living room and at a birthday party and begging my mom. The origin really began with my mom and dad. Was with seeing magic live. Because at that point I had seen David Copperfield on television, and I understood who a magician was, but I didn't see it live, right? And then when you see the birthday party magician, and he makes the rabbit appear or the dove appear, but it's in front of your face, it's not on television, it's a different experience, and that experience really changed me, because I came home and I said, Mom, I want to learn how to do that. Like, I need that. And so they didn't have that answer. They're not magicians. They didn't understand. They're like, what do we do with this? It's a phase, probably, right? It's going to be a phase. So how about a bike, Lee? You want a bike? We'll get you a bike. Bike would be great. You want to be a magician? This could be an interesting one. Okay. So they took me to the Carnegie Library in Homestead. I was in there and I checked out some books, magic books, came home, read them. I was the kid underneath the sheet with the flashlight, reading magic books when I was 10. And I admitted I would learn one. I would run downstairs and I would try to do it for my mom or dad. Of course, I would screw it up. And they would say, oh, go do it. And it was that process of, but the minute I got something, like I remember the minute like I did a trick and I came downstairs and I really did fool my parents with it and they didn't know how it was done. And I was like that's like that moment, like, oh my God, like I know something adults don't. Like
Is that what sucked you in? Like actually nailing that first
having
one?
That power to mess with adults. Like performing magic tricks for my sister, I could care less. doing magic tricks for adults, I was hooked.
Yeah.
Because I was obsessed with, fooling them. So as
that's an
that
interesting
little
concept. Like,
it was a power thing for in a real way.
right.
It was, I knew something that these people that were on planet Earth 3 times longer than me or 4 times longer than me had no clue. It was like, you're supposed to be the smartest person in the room, and yet you don't know how I'm doing this. And I became obsessed with that idea. Always, how if I know this, I'm the smartest guy in the room. Boom, I can do this. Boom, boom, boom. And then it became almost like a challenge as the career went on. It was like, oh, perform for MIT students, bring it on. Let's get weird. Like, come on, smarty pants. Like, let's see how smart you are. And it is always fun performing for like super smart people or doing stuff for like CMU, where they're going like there's these brains are very, very smart people, and you're frying them and they have no clue. And then you're going, yeah, that's the power of magic. It can work on anybody. Anyone is susceptible to being amazed and being fooled. And I think it's a common thread that we all share. Is like, as much as like we can do it to anybody, experiencing it is such a unique sensation of being fooled and not knowing how something works. And like I said, like there's a line that when you cross it and you come over the Hogwarts line of being a magician, right? And you learn how all this stuff's done, it loses its charm. Like that feeling of being fooled, it really loses its, I lose that experience. I don't get that aha moment anymore. I will say this though, when I see a magician do something for me that does fool me, I love it. Because it gives me that sensation of why I do what I do.
Right.
Because, what you get to experience. When I get to taste that occasionally, which is very rare these days, it almost motivates me more to keep performing or to keep doing magic, because it's just like, I understand that that's what people get from it. And that's so much fun. But
it almost sounds like listening to somebody who's like an addict, and they're just like, they have such a high tolerance because they're in it so much, they know about it so much, like they're experiencing it so much, and like they just need that, it needs to be that much higher, it needs to be that much more to get the taste.
And it's hard, it's so hard to, obviously, I mean, I've sat through the biggest magician shows in the world, and I've gone to a Copperfield show. He's fooled me. Like, even as a professional who I've done zillions of things, I love being fooled. Like when I saw Copperfield, and I went and hung out with him in his warehouse and did some really cool stuff with David, but that's for another talk at some other point. But I still went to his show, and he, I had not seen his show live in probably a decade. And so when there was something new in his show that I had not seen live before, and I got to see like it from beginning to end, and it fooled me. Oh my God. I was giddy. I was a little kid. Like, I was like, oh my God, David is killing it. Like, that's what's so fun about the magic world. It's like, being able to create the experiences, but being able to still go and see these experiences and still have a taste of it's always fun too.
Interesting. So do you feel more like kind of like almost like a pageant judge whenever you're in a crowd of a magic show? Like, oh, he's just doing it really well.
Yes. When you're a magician at someone else's magic show, and you're a seasoned vet and you've been there for a while. Yeah, you're not there to be fooled. You're there to almost like give appreciation to the process, or appreciation to their, how they might have, reinvented the wheel on some aspect of that trick, or disguised the method to even a better way. Like, I couldn't tell you like the times I've seen magicians do stuff and I think I know where they're going because I've seen it before. And then there's this ultimate like killer ending, and I'm just like, oh my God, there was such a good spin on that trick. It's almost like hearing someone do a cover song but do it better than the original.
Right.
And there's times where that happens where you're like, well, the original's pretty good, but that cover is amazing. You know what I mean? So when you can be the person doing that, when you can take a trick that's old as shit and put a new really cool spin on it and update it. And I think that's the reason why Houdini 100 kind of captivated people's attention at that moment, is because no one had seen an upside down straitjacket escape in 100 years. You know what I mean? So updating it with a crane, putting it 100 feet in the air, putting drones in the air, putting social media around it. Like, it was all these different elements that were able to, I think, bring it back to life. And so,
yeah.
And of course, like I said, like those are the things that, like, when you're on this line of it and you're the performer, that's what gets me up every day is the ability to do these things and think them up and try to pull them off. So that's why I love my career and I love what I do, and I can't wait to get back to doing it in person again soon.
Yeah, I can only friggin' imagine. That has to be so unbelievably frustrating. But speaking of, basically doing things that other people can't do and executing on them. So you are 9 years old, you fool your parents. And so how does magic kind of like carry you through into like maybe your teen years? Like what's like that trajectory like?
Magic, I found very quickly was the one thing that separated me from everybody else. Because it was, not every kid was learning magic tricks. I was obsessed. I was doing them for my friends. I was doing them in school. I was doing them in the talent shows. And as I got older, I started then I started getting booked. I was doing shows and making money. I was getting booked at restaurants. I was doing a Pizza Hut in my neighborhood every Tuesday night. I had free pizza for life. Like, I always had free pizza, so it was cool. Like, it was like I was building my own little business. I was handing out business cards, and I was doing the neighborhood birthday parties and the sports banquets, and this thing and that thing, and as time went on, and the more experience I got on stage, and the more I was able to develop my act and my personality and my entrepreneurial spirit. I used magic, as a way to meet girls and how to, impress girls on dates. I used to make the salt shaker when I would go out on dates in high school. I would cause the salt shaker to disappear off the table, and then it wouldn't reappear the entire date. And then the girl, whenever she would go into her house, like I would drop her off, she would go up and she would open her purse, and inside the purse would be the salt shaker from the table. And it'd be like, wait a minute, hey, how'd you do this? But I guarantee, like, I'll tell you this, I always got the second date. You know what I mean? I got the call. So it was a little method to the madness, and it always worked. But yes, I used my talent to put myself through college. So I went to Robert Morris University, and whenever I was enrolled there and I was learning I was getting an education, I was essentially because I'm one of the lucky people. I've never worked for anybody else my entire life. I've been self-employed and an entertainer every single day since I was 10 years old.
Really?
Never had another job.
That's massively impressive. I've worked for a ton of people that I hate.
And that's the suck, right? You have to work for people to understand that you don't want to work for people sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And some people can go into that to working for somebody and be completely content with it. And they live happy lives. I was never going to be that guy. I was going to always be an entrepreneur. I was always going to do it myself. I was too hands-on as an artist, wanting to really indulge myself into the talent or into the art, but also into the business. Like, I loved developing my business and my company and all the things that went into that. But I purposely did go to Robert Morris. Like, I knew what I wanted to be, and I knew what I wanted to know, and I knew where I wanted to get it. And that was all at RMU. I went there specifically to learn marketing and business. And that really came from a conversation that I had with my mentor when I was 18 years old. See, when I graduated high school, we got that was the same year as 9/11.
Right.
So
yep.
When 9/11 happened, my grandfather was a Marine, so I wanted to be a Marine, and I didn't want to be a magician anymore. And so when I graduated high school, I enlisted in the military. And as I was about to ship off to boot camp and be a Marine, I had my mentor swoop in and go, "Hey man, like you're pretty good at this magic thing. It's kind of a rare talent to have. I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice, even though I was, I wanted to be in the military. I wanted to go to war and I wanted to serve my country. And but at that moment, they swooped in and said, "Listen, you have a future with this, and you really should reconsider." And I thought about it, and I took his advice, and I ended up not going to the military, going the college route, not liking it at first, not wanting to be there.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to just go be a performer. But it was their guidance that said, no, understand this. If you can take anything out of this conversation, Lee, understand that what you are in is called show business, right? You're always going to be a magician and a performer and a showman. But if you don't have a business, you don't have a show. And the minute I connected those dots, I went, I get it. And that was when I went and learned business marketing so that I can always market myself, run a business, and continue to perform as a showman. And so that was the idea. So I went to RMU, got my degree, but I was taking the information from every class and I was literally infusing it into myself instantaneously. And the minute I graduated from college, I got an agent, a manager, and I was essentially, I was, unleashed.
Yeah.
And immediately I was touring all over the country and traveling and doing this project and dedicating doing that. And I was just, I felt like I felt like I was playing catch up because I felt like I was kind of boxed in for those 4.5 years of university. And now I was finally, but I had all this information and I wanted to put it all to work.
Right.
And so for the next better part of 2 decades, or no, over a decade since college, I've been able to almost work in Hollywood and not have to live there, by working in television and working doing network television and these TV deals and projects. I've been able to kind of live the best part of I would say my career thus far is that I've been able to shift it from being 100% on the road to only being on the road a small portion of the time and being able to perform almost like a Sinatra did in Vegas, where he was able to just roll out of bed every day, go down, perform for an audience, and sleep in his own bed every night. That's kind of, when people wake up every day, they go to their office, they go to work, and then they come home and they sleep in their own bed. As an entertainer, that's not the life I live, but it's the life I wanted, right? It's the life I wanted. So I worked really, really hard to get to the point where I didn't have to go out on the road as much and I could stay back in Pittsburgh and I could perform for my city. And that was where the idea of doing the hometown residencies evolved from. I started off with doing a residency. I had my first real residency was at Dave & Buster's. I did that for 100 shows.
Right. I do remember that. I remember you announcing that and thinking that was pretty awesome.
That was called Bamboozled, and that show ran for 100 performances. But when you're able to do a residency like that, and you're able to get in there and see all how the mechanics of it work, I was able to quickly understand the pros and the cons of doing that show there for that demographic for at that time slot. Like there's all these equations that go into it, right? Like,
yeah.
Are you performing for families? Are you performing for just adults? That's a different demographic if it's a family show or if it's an adult show. What's the ticketing cost? What's this? What do you think a ticket so there's a lot of factors that go into marketing a residency in Homestead. And so I learned through trial and error and just going through it where I wanted to ultimately be. And that was, I saw myself on stage in downtown Pittsburgh. And that's ultimately what I always wanted. I think every performer dreams of headlining Vegas someday, right? But we all know that like the odds of that happening are few and far between. And as I came up in magic, I realized I didn't want to ever perform in Vegas. That's not where I wanted to live. I didn't want to live in LA. I had spent pockets of time there, but I didn't want to dedicate myself to those locations. At the end of the day, I was a Yinzer, I was a Pittsburgher, and I wanted to be in this city with the people I love, with my family and friends and everybody I knew. And so that was the goal. The goal was to get to a point where I can almost headline my hometown. And to be able to say I did that for a better part of 5 years up until the pandemic, you know, and hopefully this all comes back and continues. Essentially, it's, you know, it's been icing on the cake for me, other than having to lose all the shows in 2020 and lose all those applause. But
yeah, I mean, every time I just get reminded of, I mean, it's amazing to like be reliving these stories and kind of hearing like your experience, and it's making me remember, I've been in the crowd for like your 52 Up Close show. Obviously I was out in the crowd for Houdini 100, and then just like thinking about everything else, like it's very, I don't know, like there's a gratitude thing where like, man, I'm really glad that I did that, because if I would have missed that experience, and like maybe that's the last time that like we're able to do it that way, but like I can say that I was there, and I said that I did it. Like, yeah, coming out on the other side, like who knows what that's going to be like. But yeah, man, I really hope that things kind of at least find things like that, like things where we can gather, things where we can be entertained as a group, things where we can kind of like laugh, scream, embrace things. Like, yeah, I definitely want to see all of that come back. But in that
I
vein,
think we will. I think sometime in 2021 we are going to be able to all sit back in a room together and experience live theater and live performances, and get back to a normal, you know, what we remember as normal.
right?
I think it will all be back at some point in time. I think it is going to take a little bit longer, but once we get there, man, I like I said, I can't wait. I can't wait to be back on stage and performing every night for Pittsburghers and in my hometown. So
how did you like? So I'm no stranger to touring. I did it. I did it for music. I kind of went out on the road with a small band, and what's happening over there? I went out on the road with a small band, and I was kind of their tour manager. And, you know, so it was, you know, 6 guys in a van and a trailer, and, you know, we trucked around the United States. Like, what is that? What's touring like for a magician?
As a magician?
Yeah.
Lonely.
That's a terrible first adjective.
Yeah, it's a lonely experience because you're essentially, you don't have a group. Magicians are solo. 90% of magicians are solo performers, or if you're traveling with an assistant, she's usually your wife or girlfriend.
Right.
But I would say, as you know, I lived in the world where every day I literally woke up in a completely different city, in a hotel, in a bed that wasn't mine, and I would go perform for an audience that a majority of the people, one, either didn't know my name or weren't going to remember my name. Or, you know, it's like you go to these corporate events in these various cities and you do these things, and it's like, it is fun. It's an it's a fun time. But when you do it for years and you're on stage and you get this incredible high from performing for an audience, right?
Yeah.
You're in front of a couple hundred people, 1,000 people, 5,000 people. You do a performance, but then you're back in your hotel room by yourself, and it's an incredible low. And then you just do it all again and again and again and again and again and again. And you realize that if you could just do that at home and instead of being hundreds and thousands of miles away from the people you love, you wouldn't have to be alone, right? You can sleep in your own bed, and you can be with your dog, or you can be with your significant other. Well, when you're a performer that's on the road every couple of days, it's just the nature of the grind. In some aspects, it's paying your dues, and you have to just realize, how long do you want to pay your dues, and how much are you able to put up with, and like I said, sometimes when you're touring and you're doing shows around the city, it can seem glamorous, it can look really cool, but sometimes it's not always the case. Sometimes you're not sleeping in the fancy Ritz-Carltons, and you're not traveling, you're not getting the Uber X's to pick you up at the airport. And sometimes the client isn't springing for, the the buffet or the food, or the good food. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like it has some, but don't get me wrong. When the big perks are there and you're getting on, you're traveling on a private jet, or you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're hanging out with, I've done magic for Jack Black and Aaron Paul and Gene Simmons and all these. It's like you get these cool experiences and opportunities. It's like the suck and the coolness, they just go hand in hand.
Right. You're kind of knocking on a door I'm just getting curious about. So like you've obviously traveled a bunch of places. You've done some big things, like having a TV show and like that giant Pittsburgh stunt that like that's just going to be remembered. It just is going to be remembered. It's not going to be like for a long time. It will be a part of Pittsburgh, which is so cool to say. But like, what are some of your favorite things that like happened to you in your career where like maybe you kind of felt like a fan that like infiltrated and you're like, I can't believe I'm on the inside of this thing. Like here I am.
I can share a couple, man. Getting to do magic at like these VIP parties and getting a look into the Hollywood world, behind the curtain in Hollywood, getting a chance to perform, on the top of the Willis Tower and travel to the Indy 500 with a client and just do all these random stuff. It's definitely, there's been some cool eye-opening experiences that I never thought, like if I never became a magician, I would never be sitting down talking music with Robbie Krieger of the Doors and having him tell me a story about Jim Morrison that he had not told anybody in 30 years, or like, it's like those types of experiences. Like my experience with Jack Black was one that will, like, I don't think I could ever top in terms of meeting a celebrity. I literally, when I met Jack, he had just came out of the bathroom and he had pumped the lotion in the bathroom and he had a whole bunch of lotion on his hands. And so we made eye contact and he looks at me and I looked at him and he was like, it's not what you think it is. And I was like, whatever you say, man. And he's like, it's the lotion. And I was like, sure it is, bro. Like, and he's like, no, I swear. And he goes, put your hands out. And I was like this. And I put my hands out and he took the extra lotion on his hand and he went, blap, blap on my hand. And he started giving me a deep tissue hand massage and I'm going, Jack Black is massaging my hands right now. This is not how I pictured meeting Jack Black to go. But he's doing a really good job. Like, it was like one of those weird experiences. You were just like, okay, like, what's up, Jack Black? Like, and then, hanging out with him and just like, he's huge into magic. So he was almost like fangirling. Like, it was like fun. Like, it was almost so much fun to do magic for him and do card tricks for him because he was like losing his shit. Like, so like being in those types of moments where you're like, is this really happening? Pinch me. Am I really having Jack Black freak out right now? Like, are we getting this on camera? Is someone taking a photo of this? So it's those types of experiences that, like, you really, when you look back on in your career and these little moments that you trade, I would never trade because they're just too cool experiences that I got to experience because of my art. And that's what's so much fun about it.
Well, God, that's so fucking cool. So actually I wanted to bring this up because we sat on two different opposite ends of this thing. You were a judge for the Pittsburgh's Red Bull Flutog.
Yes, I was.
And I was in the boat. I was in a boat for the Red Bull Flutog.
Nice. Which one were you?
I mean, I wasn't in one of the actual boats. I was in the water, like just watching.
Okay, watching. Okay, I thought you actually took part in it. I was like, you're crazy, man.
So
those dudes were getting messed up off that thing.
Well, that's what I'm about to get to. I am multiple beers deep. We're having a great time. I'm dehydrated. It's a sunny ass day. And then all of a sudden I thought for sure I saw a guy die. And I was like, this is going to scar me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about too.
Yeah, that was one of the most crazy things, but like I know you were right there. So like
Yeah.
what like how did that make you feel? This guy like
The flute talk thing was cool, man. I had a relationship with Red Bull because I had done a series with them called Sleight of Can, where I developed magic themed videos for them that they used on all their social channels around the world. And so that was right at the time when they were playing the flute talk. And, the flute talk thing is, I knew what it was, and but when I heard it was coming to Pittsburgh, I was excited to be a part of it because it's such a weird event.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when they asked me to judge, I was like, absolutely. To get people, watch people just like get jacked up and fall in the three rivers, like that's super fun. Yeah, man, I was concerned because like some of those people should not have been up there. Like they didn't know what they were doing. And there is a unfortunate story of a TV news reporter. I won't say his name because there's some legal stuff I think still going on with them. And from the Red Bull Flute Talk, there was a gentleman that got very hurt, and some unfortunate things. The legal elements of getting hurt doing that. Who's really responsible, and how's all these things. Where do you? So that all that stuff kind of came into question. But for the most part, I saw the event as just a larger than life party, man. It was the craziest party I'd seen on the seen on those rivers since we had what was the other
Stanley
party?
Cup?
No, what was the party we always have on the
regatta?
Water? The regatta, yeah.
Yeah, regatta, baby.
Yeah, I was supposed to do the regatta the year it magically disappeared. If you remember.
Got canceled. Yeah,
yeah.
It was like a fraud scam, wasn't there? Was some weird thing going on.
The guy that was a part of it had approached me and was trying to get me to headline one of the nights of the regatta that year. And for whatever reason, I told my manager I didn't want to do it because of what the stunt I was going to be doing. That I had, when I was talking to him, I was like, well, listen, if I was going to do it, this is what I would do. And they were like, absolutely. Like, can we book that? And I was like, hold on here. Like, I don't want to commit to this yet. Because I wanted to put more time between the one I had done before in 16. I wanted to put more time between it. And so I was like, I'll do it next. I told him I would do it. I think I said I would do it in 2020. And because it was 2019 got canceled. This is the year it got canceled.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I don't know, man. It'll be back though. I think the regatta will be back.
Yeah. I forget what the name of that dude's company was, but I remember there was definitely like a funny money thing that was going on.
I don't know the ins and outs of it. I remember there being, I think they overcommitted on some money on some stuff, and then they couldn't pull it off, and they had to cancel it all at the last minute. And
yeah,
it was pretty ugly. People were pissed. People were pretty mad. All the vendors that were a part of that and the setup, and it was a nightmare, sure. Man. I hope some people were able to get money out of it, but I heard a lot didn't.
All right. Well, so we kind of glossed on it, but I didn't like really get into it with you, but like, give me you're like the inside scoop on Houdini's last secrets. Like, what was all of the behind the camera experience like? What was it like dealing with Discovery Channel? What was it like dealing with writers and producers and directors? Like, how much integrity did they have? Did they care about it as much as you did? Like, what's the?
They didn't.
No.
No, TV, how TV's made, man. It's unfortunate. All right, there it goes.
Yeah,
no.
You're good.
So I will say that like, I got lucky. I think I got lucky. I have worked in television and I have seen how it's usually run. Right. I've been on AGT and different sets, and I know I kind of get their process. Houdini's Last Secrets, I saw going into it what I thought what the process was going to be, and I was hoping that it would be a little bit different than what I was kind of, I thought I was signing up for. Where I lucked out was the director that I got for Houdini's Lost Secrets, the showrunner, is bar none one of the top in the business. His name is David Barsky, and he was the showrunner and producer with Mike Rowe in Dirty Jobs.
Okay.
So knowing that, I was able to see his body of work and know who I was going to be working with, because as much as I am an on camera and performer, when you're a magician on a magic show about Houdini, I'm also there as a writer, as a secrets protector, as a director. It's like I'm directing the director on how to direct me, to maximize what I think what he wants, right?
Yeah.
And it's because I'm like, listen, I'm the magician. I know what you want, but I know the way it should look for the audience. See that, and that's the give and take and I think when you can luck out and you can get on set with people that care about the end product as much as, say, the director does. Like when I've been on set places, like a lot of the actors, they're just there. They don't give me the line, tell me how to say it, show me where I can. Where's Crafty's at? Where's the food?
Line,
yeah. But when you work with like professionals that are all there to give their 100% best in every direction, you're gonna capture magic. And I think that's what we did with Houdini's Lost Secrets, no pun intended, is because I was set up with an incredible director. I had Houdini. I had George Hardin, who is a Houdini himself, being the great grandnephew of Harry Houdini.
Right.
So, and he turned out to be an incredible guy. And then you just kind of hope that your cast and the rest of your cast and crew are all there to be a part of a cool experience and give 100%. Because that's not always the case. But with the crew on this one, they were so great. Because I think so many people were, excited about the idea of working on this type of show because it was outside of what they were used to working on. Because I think working on a magic show just brings so much more excitement to people that are filming it. Like they wanted to get to cool shots. They wanted to get the long exposure on the cuffs. And so when you have people that want to do that type of stuff, it's just going to give you a way better product. And on that show, I would say the only thing that was like the give and take for me with the network was it wasn't called Houdini's Lost Secrets in the very beginning. It had a working title, and it was called Houdini's Unmasking Houdini. And I hated it. I hated the title. And so I told them, I was like, Unmasking Houdini is a horrible title. I told the network executives, I'm like, it's like that fucking, like I was literally telling network executives at Discovery Channel that the name that they wanted to name the show was dog shit. And I was like, I wasn't demanding them change it because like I was like I don't have that much power on set, but I strongly suggested that in the world of magic, the word unmasking is a negative connotation, and I was like, I think there was a better way of saying it, and that's why when they came with Houdini's Lost Secrets, I was like, bing, 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 like you hit it out of the park. Well done, like 1,000 times better. So those are like one of the little behind the scenes things that like, so without my push, it would have been called something completely different. I had to draw up how to do all these tricks on a chalkboard because all they had were pictures of Houdini doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And some random videos over the years of other guys attempting them. They didn't have, an on-site person saying, this is how you do this. That was my job. And so as much as I'm the on-camera guy and the talent and the guy putting himself in the sticky situations and risking his life, I'm also the guy telling them how to build it all and how to shoot it all so that it works correctly for the magic world. You know what I mean? Because the last thing we want to do is expose. And that was the other thing with Discovery is like, I knew that they wanted to like kind of peek behind the curtain on this stuff. And I had told them, I said, listen, as a magician, my ethics for this come in question. And I said, this is how far I'll give you. I said, I'll go 90. I won't go 100. Meaning that because these tricks were 100 years old, and a lot of the information is out there and searchable and you can find it, I will give the audience on camera a 90% peek at what it is this is. But there will remain a small fraction of a percent of mystery on each trick. Meaning that I'm going to tell the camera guy, buzz off, or there's a certain part of each trick or a secret that I'm not going to divulge.
Right.
And believe it or not, the magic historians and the Houdini network of people, I got a lot of praise from those people and compliments saying, thank you for not more or less giving into a network's demands and revealing everything. I protected, as a magician, I felt the oath that there was a little bit of an oath I had to protect in terms of some of the content that they were shooting. And so therefore, there were times where I said to the director, take the camera out, move the camera here, shoot it this way. You're not going to see this. And so there was a little bit of a balance I had to play with making a television show for Hollywood and making a television show for the magic world.
Do you remember when we were growing up, there was a show called it might have just been called The Magician or something like that, but it was literally them revealing.
It was Magician where they revealed everything. Yeah.
You had like that green mask on and you revealed all these.
Funny story with the masked magician. He's a real guy. His name is Val Valentino. He's a real magician. He was a real magician in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I had a weird story. Is like years ago, I was at a magic convention. Yes, there are magic conventions.
Well, there's a convention for everything.
Yeah, it was a convention for everything. So I was at a magic convention and I was in, a lounge area. And this is a lounge area where people just kind of have drinks and talk what about anything and meet each other, right? And I remember I met a guy who I was a nice guy, talking to him, talking magic tricks and shows and at the end he says, hey man, let's be friends on Facebook. And I was like, sure, dude, look me up. And I typed my name in and he goes, oh, I sent you a friend request. And I looked at it and I went, okay. And I was like, I can't approve this asshole. Val Valentino. Talking to the masked magician? I ain't gonna be friends with the masked magician.
Right. Well, that was kind of where I was going. I didn't know for sure, but like at the time I had heard that like it wasn't very well received by the magic community.
Yeah, everybody hated him. Everybody hated him and dogged him because of what he did and he broke the oath and da-da-da-da-da. But I'll be honest with you, man. Has that show done more harm than good? It hasn't. It's done more good than harm.
Yeah.
Over time, see, in the beginning, people saw it as so negative and how bad it was. And, oh, my God, he's revealing all these secrets on television. I'm going to be honest with you right now. You could watch that show and then a month later be sitting in an audience of a magic show and see those same tricks, and you still won't remember how they're done.
Right.
Now, could you go and find the episode of television and watch that episode and, oh, okay, and then go, oh, that's how it was done? Oh, yes, you
Not
could.
back then. Not back then, you couldn't.
No. Can you do that today? Sure. Are you? Not likely.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate side of exposure in magic. There was no way to stop it. There wasn't a way to stop it. The internet is going to win every time. There's always going to be the next generation of magicians that doesn't care, that's going to use YouTube to just expose every single secret that's out there. But the one, like the magic that I love is the magic that's in books and that, is not out there as much and is not performed, in the public's eyes, not on YouTube. And it's finding those types of tricks to do is what's been a challenge, but also fun in a way, especially in like the I would say in the virtual space,
right?
Like doing magic in the virtual space for like the last 10 months has been an interesting dive into almost a subgroup of magic, because there's now a set of tricks that you can only do in the virtual world.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to trigger this into the trick yet, but because I have just a couple more questions for you,
Yeah.
and then we'll do the trick, and I'll let you go because I can't believe that we're still talking, to be honest with you. Uh so we actually our mutual friend Marta
Oh,
has
Marta, yes.
asked me, she wants to know if you're still on your meditation game.
I have done some meditation. Sure, yeah, I still use it occasionally. Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah, she would. So every now and then we will have like these random morning phone calls. She'll hit
Hmm.
me up about something. All of a sudden we'll be texting back and forth a bunch in the morning. She's like,
That's
"Can we just have
Marta
a
for
can we
sure.
just have a phone call?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fine.
that's
I
Marta.
work
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
work at home. That's fine."
Yeah. I know she was into it. She's done the floats and those things. But yeah, I've done it over the years. I have found success in it and benefits from it. I'm not a regular person. I don't regularly do it, even though I probably should, because I do like I do like how it makes me feel over the next like day or so. But yeah, I've used it pretty periodically when I've used it in times when I've been on stage a ton and performing a ton, and you just need that mental break, and you do a little bit of a meditation for a few days, and almost like it just it's like it just perks you back up, man. It's just energy. It's that brain energy I think that you get from it that makes you just plow through those long stretches of hard work.
Yeah, yeah. I will admit that I really don't meditate at all. But uh, I also am the type of person that can sleep standing up. So like when I need a break, I'll just like
Hmm.
take a nap or something. Like I'll
Sure.
just retry like, and I know some people have a hard time doing that, like shutting the brain off,
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
down, taking a nap, even just getting to sleep at night. Like I'm not that guy. So like I haven't really gotten into the whole like meditation realm thing,
Mhm.
but just knowing at uh how talented I am at naps, I can imagine
You
that
can do
it's
transcendental then. I always suggest transcendental meditation. It's
yeah.
it's it's the thing that when I've done it, I find the most success in is doing transcendental meditation. But you have to block out time for it. It's something you have to be committed to. And understanding the process of how to do it is another. I mean, you can watch a
Right.
YouTube video on it for sure, but like teaching yourself and your body and your brain to do it is kind of it's a fun little journey once you get into it to try to do it.
Yeah.
I honestly I didn't have success the first couple of times I tried, and I got discouraged. And then I watched. I remember watching a video about Jerry Seinfeld, and he does it twice a day,
Oh.
and I went, okay. And he says he's done it twice a day for like 30 years. He doesn't miss a day. And I'm going, okay, if Jerry Seinfeld can find time to do transcendental 2 times a day in his busy life, okay, I can figure this out, at least to try, figure out how to do it occasionally, right?
Right.
And so when I was able to, when I finally figured out I could do it and it worked and I felt the effects, I was like hooked. I was like, I want to do it all the time. But then I realized, like, don't do it all the time. Use it for when you need it. Like, you don't, use it for when you need that extra oomph to get through something on a project, or if you've burned yourself out a day or two working on a TV show. Because like when I was on these shows, man, like you're on set for stupid amounts of hours, and then you're traveling. It really does wear you out, and it's hard to almost stay. I would say the one thing I think I took out of it was that I found myself when I was on autopilot, like when I was just working a ton and you become on autopilot, you
Yep.
don't live in the moment as much, right? You're constantly glued to your phone. Your experiences are all just becoming, your conversations even become kind of almost like a robotish.
Yeah, a little cookie cutter.
Little cookie cutter, yeah. And you just want to get to bed and up and do it again, and not a long day, and if you do that too long, I think you almost don't live in the moment as much. And as a magician, living in the moment is, I think, the most important part of magic. I don't hate when people take their phones out and film me, doing tricks. I do tell people like, hey, like, I try to be nice about it. I'm like, hey,
right.
Like, you're never gonna fucking rewatch this shit. Like I get it, you want to put it on your social, and I appreciate you if you tag me, whatever. But like at the end of the day, like I don't want your audience to experience this. I want you to experience this. I'm doing this for you. I'm not doing this for your audience. And I think that's a part of it. Like when you can live in the moment and get rid of that shit, I think it's ultimately so much healthier. And so that's why when I found myself like going like on a completely crazy run of work or shows or travel or whatever, and I'm not living in the moment, I will use transcendental meditation to more or less put me back into the moment. It's worked.
Interesting. Right on. Well, she'll be stoked that I asked, because I told her I would.
Good. Yeah.
But now, so we're talking about meditation and like basically how to piece your mind back together. I think I'm ready to get my brain broken. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So we can do something. We'll mess with you a little bit here. So I'll do something with my cell phone and just the 7 of hearts. What is
okay.
It doesn't matter the card. All it matters is that in my cell phone I have a slit in the back right here. I don't know if you can see that little slit.
Yeah, I can.
And then I have a card, right? I have a card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cell phone and I'm going to take the card, and I want you to watch the card, because I'm going to put the card. I'm going to put it right into that slit in the back of it's right in my case. But what I can do is if I can get this to go, you'll start to see this start to go right through. It'll start to go right through the phone, right? Now you can see that is going right through the cell phone, right? Right through the cell phone. Now, I'm going to go all the way through the cell phone. I'll go all the way through, just like so, because I really want you to see that this is truly, truly coming through the cell phone. It's truly going through my cell phone, just like so, like that. And I'm going to pull that out. But here's the thing: since I'm performing in the digital space here, it's so important that you begin to question everything you're seeing. Like right now, if you were to question everything you see, you would question this lens on my camera here. You see that lens? See, the thing about that lens on my camera is that if I start to just do this, see that lens actually starts to peel up, and see that's not a lens. That's just a sticker. It's just a sticker of a lens. That's not a lens. See, and then the face of the phone, you see, it looks normal, but see, this is just a piece of cardboard. See, this is actually just paper right there. And this is not a cell phone. It's actually just a solid block. It's a solid block of Pittsburgh steel. So you can see that is a solid block of Pittsburgh steel. So there you go.
Dude, fuck you, man.
Does that hurt? That has been a fun one to perform in the virtual space. I love, messing with people with some of these things. And then if you want, I'll close off with one more.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Jesus Christ.
Now, here's the thing, like in doing magic on the internet, like, and even in this format, like people can think that maybe me and you had set this up. Maybe I had said, hey man, save this card, or, I'm preempting you on something. You will contest. None of that has been done.
No, not. I haven't even been able to stay on my outline that I have here. So there's none of this is pre-orchestrated.
So if I asked you right now to think of a card, you would swear to your audience, this is fair, or we're not setting this up in any way. So if you were to think of a card right now, what I want you to do, think of a card, right? You got a card in your brain, don't say it. Perfect. Here's what I want you to do. Delete that card. We're not going to use it.
Okay.
Pick a different card. Different card. You got a different card?
Yes.
Perfect. Delete it.
Okay.
Get rid of it. Pick a different card.
Okay.
Okay, you got a card? So you're thinking of a card that you did not know you'd be thinking of. Fair, right?
Definitely not.
We didn't go your first choice. We didn't go with your second choice. And I didn't even know what those first choices were. You're thinking of your third card right now that you never know. This is your third option. You didn't know you'd be picking this. That's what makes it fair, right? Because if you didn't know you'd be picking it, there's no way I can know you'd be picking it. And I'd also like to go out on a limb here and show that I'm also wearing my Some Good Print t-shirt here, baby.
Hey.
So, okay. So you have a card in your mind that you didn't know you'd be thinking of. So therefore, there's no way I could know you'd be thinking of it. So for the first time, what is your card? You can say it.
3 of clubs.
3 of clubs. Now here's the thing. Even though you've changed your mind 2 times now, I'm going to give you one last chance. Do you want to change your mind from the 3 of clubs and go with a completely different card? Or do you want to stay with the 3 of clubs? Because what happens next is going to blow your mind.
I'll change it.
Oh, he's going to change it. Okay, I like it.
Okay. All right.
And what's the card?
8 of spades.
8 of spades. Anyway, I knew you were going to change the 8 of spades.
I mean, I didn't know I was going to change.
You didn't know you were going to change it. I couldn't know you were going to change the spades. But what if I did? Wouldn't that be kind of scary if I knew what you were going to change to?
If you fucking hold up the 8 of spades right now, I'll freak out.
What if I could prove it? I can. I can prove that I was thinking of the 8 of spades along with you. You want to know? Here's how I can prove it. Is because before we started this chat, right, I took one playing card and I signed it on the back with my signature. I then took that card and I flipped it over and made it reversed. And I put it into a deck of cards. I closed that deck of cards up, and that deck of cards has been sitting on camera this entire time. So that deck of cards is right here. One deck of cards that's been sitting in the back because they're still in the box, right? Not the cards that I've been performing with before.
I can review this tape. You know that.
You can watch. I want you to. Go for it. Because there's one card in this deck of cards that I reversed and signed my name on it. And that card is the 8 of spades. You want me to prove it?
I mean, might as well. Son of a bitch.
You ready?
Yeah.
One card in the deck of cards. One card is reversed amongst all the rest. One card from the pack has my name right on the back of that card. The one card that was reversed in the deck of cards that bears my signature is the 8 of spades.
What in the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. You're pretty good at what you do. Dude, what?
And I do that trick live. I can do that trick not only in the virtual space, it crushes in the virtual world. I do that trick live, for people right in front of you. I do it for you in your hands. I'd hand you the cards. I'd hand you the 8 of spades. But even that's just, and I think that
I want that card at some point. I want that card.
You want the 8 of spades, the signed 8 of spades.
I do.
And here's the thing. That's what shows you the power of magic. It's like that trick can still make a connection over our Wi-Fi, right? And over this, and still hit and still amaze you. But I guarantee, man, if I was standing in front of you in reality doing that for you, I think it hits even hard. It's even more impressive. But
right.
The magic is still one of those arts that does work in this world. Fuck.
That's amazing. That's awesome to hear. because obviously it's really the only option you have. And I know, like, I listen to a decent amount of comedians on their podcasts and whatnot, and they're just like, listen, comedy doesn't fucking work in like the Zoom world.
It doesn't work, no. And I knew that. I knew that really quick because I was right out the gate. I was already, I move fast when the wind blows. And when I saw the wind blowing of no more stage shows, I dove hard into the virtual world. I was doing, video. I was shooting in my dining room. My dining room became kind of a studio for a few months, and I was filming content and chopping it up and more or less selling it to universities and organizations and companies and that's how I transitioned into the virtual space. But I found out very quick doing the virtual, like the Zoom shows, that like all the jokes that were built into my magic, it's like they didn't hit. You know what I mean? It's like the same effect. But and even with the magic, it was like I liked doing magic one-on-one with people in the virtual space. But when you're trying to do something for a room full of 50 people that are, say, they're on a Zoom show or something, it really doesn't have anywhere the same enjoyment for me, and I think the audience. You know what I mean? There's something about being together and experiencing it as it's like when you're in a room together experiencing an event, you're like one little community organism that's going on this ride together. And you all have a part to play, right?
Yeah, there's such a connected energy.
There is a connected energy in it. But when it's this, that there is no more connected energy. And the connection here is so, I think, fragile that it's almost not worth it for me. And
fragile that's why is a good word. I like that.
I did the virtual stuff early on, and I had fun with it, but I didn't get the return that I so wanted. I guess the applause and the connection and and the enjoyment. So I started to phase out really quick. I didn't see the longevity in it. I didn't see, I don't think magicians are going to be doing Zoom shows a year from now.
Yeah.
Or maybe even 6 months from now. Hopefully we're not. And so therefore, if there's no longevity in it, I'm tapping out early. And that's what I did. I tapped out early on the virtual performing. And I still do them occasionally. Like, don't get me wrong, I still do. I wasn't just gonna make it my everything. I wasn't gonna be doing Zoom magic shows 24/7. It just wasn't who I am. It wasn't my brand. It wasn't. I didn't have fun in it. That space. And so I realized very quickly that I just want to continue to work on television and getting back on live stage.
Yeah, well, I guess like before we completely wrap up, you saying that you wanted to do stage and TV still, do you have an idea? Like, is there something that's like an innovation that you're thinking is like maybe a way, like say you need to have a real plan B that's not, well, I guess TV is always able to be done, but like say stage isn't able to be done anymore. Do you have some sort of an innovation that like maybe you're kicking around that maybe there is like it's fulfilling for you, even though there's not a crowd, but like it's still like I don't know, it's like a new take on how you present your creativity?
I think in terms of being a magician on stage, I don't think we can really change the dynamic of how that's going to work. And so therefore I think the virtual space has its pros and cons, but I think for me, I can't wait until this is over and we can just be back on stage and in a room together and doing this for real. I guess I live in the world, and I wouldn't say it's a fantasy world, but I think that world will return sooner than you think. And so
God, I hope so.
I do. I really do think it'll be sooner than you think. I think, and with thinking that way, I don't think there's a need to really, quote unquote, reinvent the wheel. Like how I'm seeing, like, don't get me wrong, I've seen what they're doing over in Europe for like festivals, and they're putting them all in their little pens
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, it's a new way to do live performances, but at the same time, like,
You did a drive-in, didn't you?
I did the drive-in show. And if you would have told me in 2019 that I would be standing on stage in a parking lot in Hazelwood doing a magic show to people sitting in their cars, beeping and flashing their lights at me as their form of interaction, and it would take place on the exact same day as the home opener of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I would have more fans in attendance at my magic show, a drive-in magic show, than the Pittsburgh Steelers would at Heinz Field, I would have told you were totally insane. And that happened. So, do I think the drive-in shows are going to come back? I really, really hope not. I really
No,
do.
it wasn't your thing.
No,
Nah.
You know what? It was at that moment in time during the pandemic, all it did was help scratch an itch.
Yeah.
It scratched an itch.
Just see what it's all about.
I got up there. I did it. I had fun for a night. And I went, okay, check that off the bucket list. I've been beeped out, high beamed. The windshield wipers were going. Like, it was everything, man.
For the first time, none of that shit was negative.
I know, like, you suck, can't you? Windshield wipers. I made the most of it, and I realized that, I hope this isn't the world we live in the future. I will do whatever there need. I will wash my hands every day. I will 6 distance. I will wear my, it's like whatever I got to do to get back on stage, to just getting back to just doing what I love is going to be my goal. And so that's why I don't think I'm going to try to reinvent the wheel in any way, in other than doing the drive-in performance. I think that, I do think that there will be a time within the next 6 months that we will be back in live in a theater together, watching a show, and coronavirus and COVID and 2020 and that whole little nightmare will all just be a little faint memory that we go, hey, remember when we had to do all this wild shit and wear masks everywhere?
We're never going to stop talking about it. Never. It's never going to, it's going to be
a running gag for a
It's going to be a dad joke. It's going to be a dad joke. It's going to be so played out that it's going to be a dad joke.
It will be a dad. It's going to, it will turn into that for sure. Everybody's going to talk about that 2020 year of our lives and what we all went through and how we all binge watch Netflix and sat on our couches. And so, but the goal with that time, with this year, was that as an artist, man, like, this is, you couldn't look at it as a death sentence, as, not being able to, perform and it can be a career killer in a way. But it's all on how you look at it. And if you dive in, like I said, I dove into it. I saw what the virtual space was. I got what I wanted out of it, and I moved on very quickly. And now I'm in a space where I'm just biding my time to be back on stage. I'm writing for projects that are in the works. I'm going to be working on a new project with the BBC in the coming year. And so I got just got a little couple irons in the fire, and just kind of just waiting it out, man. Just wait and see attitude.
Waiting to brand everything. Man, well, I can't thank you enough for taking over 2 hours of your time and giving it to, dude. I honestly, it doesn't feel like it, but I check my clock just to be like, just honestly, it's more of a courtesy thing than anything. But yeah, thank you so much for doing this. And I'm probably going to have another drink just to cope with the fact that I don't understand what just happened.
Good. Yeah.
And, but like, so before we wrap up, I always let the guest end up as like the interviewer for a second. And I let you ask the audience anything you'd like to know from them. So what are you wondering about that you'd like to ask everybody that's listening?
I guess if I were to ask my audience, if I had to poll the audience, right, I'd want to pull them. How many of you would feel comfortable tomorrow sitting in an audience watching a show?
Ooh,
that's what I want to know. I want to gauge that because I'm curious. I have a feeling that the way the media and 2020 and coronavirus, it has turned so many people into germaphobes, right?
Yep.
I come from the element of, you can walk out of your house and you can get in your car and you can be killed on your way to work. So you could be scared of everything, but you shouldn't be. You know what I mean? And I think that I hope that there is the people that are out there that have gone down the COVID world of being scared to be around people and in that format. I'm hoping that goes away as fast as it came, and we all had to change our lives. I hope that when they say that it's safe to get back in the water, I hope that the audiences are willing to dive back in.
Yeah, I don't think that you are gonna get too much. I don't think that you're gonna find too much friction there. I think once people if this vaccine rolls out in an efficient way and people immediately feel comfortable that we're on our way back to all things thumbs up, and the CDC says it's cool, they start upping the numbers of people that can be together, whatever. I mean, we got lied to, and people still seem to believe them, believe a lot of the things that they're hearing. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, but it's not a secret that there were many times that we got lied to by the authorities on this entire, I don't know, adventure that we're dealing with. And,
yeah, right. Yeah.
So, but if they do tell us it's time to be safe, maybe they'll, if they're still believing them now, there's no reason to say that they're not going to believe them whenever it's safe. So my guess is whenever they say it's safe, people are going to go, it's safe.
Yeah. Well, and that's the goal, is that I hope that those people, dive back in and come and see a show and aren't scared. Cause it was weird, man, hearing the word social distancing to a magician. That's not what you want to hear, because then cards become lethal weapons in a way. Taking a card took on a new meaning there.
Even to a printer, right? So business cards, the exchange of a business card all of a sudden is I'm going to kill you.
Yep.
It was, and that's how extreme it was in the very
beginning. I think that needs to fade away. You know what I mean? And it's 100%. The faster that can fade away, the better.
Yeah, and I think most people, for the most part, I think have let go of that. After 10 months, almost 11 months of this now, I think there's even just accidental trial and error. They're like, oh, it's not. That's that actual grabbing an object or something like that, and doing it out of reflex because it's what you used to be able to do, and they realize, oh, this actually was okay. Or I don't need to go to the shopping, to the grocery store and be afraid of picking up something off the shelf,
And the thing about Americans is I really don't think that shaking hands will go away.
It hasn't yet.
No, I don't think it's going to.
So, I mean, to a larger extent, forget shaking hands, hugs, that's people, it's going to come back. It's just, it's just weird that I'm sitting here going, this is funny that we're having this conversation and it can be considered controversial. Yeah. What we're talking about right now, this shouldn't be considered very controversial, but it could be to the right and to certain people, to whatever, that can be considered controversial. But I agree. And I do think things are going to come back, and I look forward to it because they were always my passions. Bringing up Marta again, she and I had a conversation where we were there actually was some good that came from this. I truly did find a lot of positives out of this, and that's almost in itself controversial to say because this is kind of a terrible time. So to say that we found that you found some positive in such a negative time where like people are really, really struggling is a little bit of a, hot topic, and, but
hey, well, everybody's on their own personal journey. So
yeah, like, but I think most people, if they were being honest, would say that they found some positive out of this, even though we all could have a litany of things on our list of negatives for sure.
yeah, it was an ugly year, but with that type of year, there are good things that will, will bloom out of it for sure. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to see that in the terms of how Americans maybe treat each other going forward and over the next, say, year or so. I do think that as much as we were fractured as a nation throughout the 2020 and divided, I think that over the next, say, year or so, I think that it'll go back to normal. I think we'll actually be better in 20. I think the end of 2021 going to 2022 could be some of the best moments in America coming up. And I think that because of where I could see the economy going and having having the right leadership in place can make all the difference between, the level of happiness in your country. And once we get get strong into that next administration, I think it's going to have a big effect on people's happiness too.
I think it'll be at least calmer, and
Yes.
that will be
Make politics
good
boring
enough,
again.
I think, for a lot of people, is just to bring it down just a little bit, but all right, man, I'm gonna let you go because it just, if you let me, I'll just keep fucking talking to you all night. So lastly, plug all the things, tell people where they can reach you, website, social media, if you're going to be doing any gigs virtually or whatever.
You know what? No virtual gigs planned at the moment. If anybody wants to check me out, just go to leeterbosic.com, at Lee Terbosic on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those good places. I don't know. Keep your eyes peeled. I'll probably have some TV news coming up here in the next couple months. And as the word, as word starts to trickle down of when we can start planning to get back on stage, look for some announcements from me in terms of some live shows coming to Pittsburgh again, probably later this year. So
awesome. Well, I can't say it anymore. Thank you so much for giving me the time. Thank you so much for doing this. I still can't fucking believe what I saw. And
hell yeah, man. No
you're
problem.
the man, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again.
All right, bro. Yeah, dude. Can't wait, man. I'll see you again soon, and thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. All right, man. Thank you.
All right, peace.